Welcome to this lesson. I have a question for you, right from the start. Would you like to be a Chief Procurement Officer one day? If yes, it's important to take the right steps now to position yourself for that role. Considering the competition in the field, the Chief Procurement Officer is the highest position that one can achieve in procurement. This person is a top authority when it comes to anything and everything about procurement. But how do you become a CPO? If you're up for it, let's get you moving in the right direction by discussing what will be expected of you in that position. In this lesson, you will learn about the role of a transactional CPO versus a transformational one, and you'll explore the 4 transactional roles a CPO must fulfill. Additionally, you will discover how your skills in these areas can impact you once you become a CPO. Recently, an executive search professional shared insights into his process. He revealed that he often receives calls from CEOs seeking a new CPO. The CEO would say, "Our procurement function is critical. I want to hire the best. Find me the top CPOs in the industry." And then the search professional brings in a series of exceptional procurement leaders for the CEO to meet. During the interviews, these leaders discuss strategic sourcing, supply chain transformation, and the importance of analytics in procurement. However, after these interviews, the CEO inevitably reaches out to the search executive again, saying, "Those were impressive individuals, but can you find me some traditional procurement leaders?" This scenario highlights the 2 distinct expectations that CEOs may have for a CPO. 1. Transactional. Many CEOs want a CPO who can efficiently manage all the basic procurement functions, relieving the CEO of that burden. This role focuses on smoothly running procurement operations and providing standard procurement services. 2. A transformational CPO. Some CEOs want a CPO who will partner with them in driving business transformation. The CPO becomes part of the CEO's inner circle, working closely with the CFO and possibly another C-suite member. In our case, when CEOs request the best procurement leaders, the search executive presents them with transformational leaders. However, it often turns out that most CEOs are actually seeking a transactional leader. Not many CEOs will openly express a preference for a transactional procurement function. Doing so would contradict the image of progress and momentum that many CEOs strive to maintain. Nevertheless, their underlying expectation is often to maintain the status quo. If a CPO fails to recognize this early on, they may continue to push for change and face resistance at every turn. I've met several procurement leaders who became frustrated and eventually lost their jobs because they didn't understand the CEO's expectations. It's important to emphasize that there's nothing inherently wrong with CEOs preferring a transactional procurement leader, nor it is wrong to be one. For example, I know a CPO who, after an extensive career search, was hired by a healthcare company with hundreds of factories and a persistently high turnover rate. The company needed someone exceptional at managing the massive operational task of procurement, including sourcing, supplier management, and compliance. She excelled in these areas, and they didn't require someone to transform the procurement function, but rather someone to efficiently run it. It was a perfect alignment between the CEO's needs and the CPO's capabilities. Now, let's delve into the 4 transactional skills that a CEO might expect from any CPO, and then explore how a CPO can also drive transformation within the organization. The first thing every successful procurement leader will tell you is that you must have the basics of procurement operations and compliance under control before you'll ever be given a chance to do more strategic work. This means that whether you are hired strictly for transactional procurement or hired for transformation, you need to master the operations and compliance side. If you hate being involved in things like supplier management and compliance audits, then you probably don't want to be a procurement leader. You might be better off being a technical specialist, such as an expert in supplier relationship management. If you're moderately good at tasks like these, but not very interested in them, then you'll need to compel yourself to take an interest and develop your skills. These areas will be the key to procurement leader role. The second role you should be prepared to play is as confidant and advisor. Procurement has a reputation for being good at handling suppliers and contract-related issues and is often seen as a neutral party. This means that the procurement leader may be the one person other leaders feel safe confiding in. It provides an informal way for the procurement leader to support the leadership team and, at times, get ahead of problems before they get out of hand. This is a 360 degrees role that extends upwards to the CEO, downward to the management team, and to your C-suite colleagues. Many functions connected to procurement will look to the role to be a person they can talk to about supplier conflicts, concerns, uncertainty, and so on. Fulfilling this role is fundamentally about two things. One is that you practice absolute discretion, and the other is effective soundboarding. You must be willing to sit, quietly listen to what is being shared, and respond thoughtfully. The third part a procurement leader must play is to be an organization champion. While it is widely recognized that being an employee champion is important, the primary duty of a procurement leader is to champion the organization as a whole. This means prioritizing the needs of the board, the CEO, and the top team. It is crucial to understand that pushing too hard to be solely an employee champion in an organization that does not value it may lead to being marginalized. A procurement leader can say, "You may not like it, but I will hold you accountable for procurement decisions. If you plan to reduce costs in a way that harms supplier relationships, I will advise against it. If you want to make a hire without following the proper procurement process, I will point out the risks of setting a dangerous precedent. If you make decisions that negatively impact suppliers, I will highlight the long-term implications for the company." That's the kind of champion the CEO expects you to be. An expert in procurement who understands the long-term business consequences of not treating suppliers well. If you genuinely care about supporting suppliers and optimizing procurement practices, the procurement leadership role is a great fit. It's a matter of aligning organizations' needs with the needs of its suppliers. However, it is important to recognize that sometimes the organization will need to make decisions that may not be favorable for suppliers. As a senior leader, you must be capable of supporting the CEO in those situations. And finally, as a Chief Procurement Officer, you will often be required to report to the board. Here are the 3 key areas to focus on. 1. Main programs and projects in procurement. Be ready to explain the organization's key initiatives, such as strategic sourcing, supplier management, cost optimization, sustainability efforts, and risk management strategies. 2. Addressing current topics in procurement. Stay informed about emerging technologies and supply chain disruptions. And be prepared to discuss how the organization is adapting. This includes implementing new digital tools and strategies to manage risks and maintain a resilient supply chain. 3. Identifying and managing procurement risks. Understand the risks associated with procurement and supply chain operations. Communicate how the organization identifies, assesses, and mitigates risks related to suppliers, market changes, compliance, cybersecurity, and ethical sourcing. Remember, the board is the CEO's boss, so it's valuable to have exposure to board-level experiences. Seek opportunities to interact with board members or individuals closely associated with them to better understand their expectations. Now that we've talked about being a CPO, let's talk about staying as a CPO. When it comes to being a CPO, it is important to consider C-suite positions. While job tenures vary across countries, in the United States, most C-suite roles have relatively short durations. As a CPO, it's essential to continuously build your reputation, expand your network, and develop your skills, even when you're in a top position. The role of the CPO is a strategic one. This means he or she acts as the brains of the entire procurement department, always creating strategies and holding meetings in order to decide the best course of action for every procurement action. He or she always makes sure that the procurement process must be followed in line with the organization's standards. It's worth noting that some CPOs do stay in their roles until retirement. If you do become a CPO, remember to align with the CEO's expectations and focus on fulfilling their stated needs rather than imposing your own transformational agenda. Additionally, after a few years in the role, it is wise to start considering potential career moves if necessary. Landing another CPO position can be challenging due to limited availability, and your competition will also be highly skilled and experienced. Staying at the top is just as challenging as reaching the top, but with the right mindset and expectations, it can be a fulfilling and rewarding career path. Now, that's a wrap. Congratulations on finishing another lesson in this module. In this lesson, you learned that the role of a CPO can be transactional or transformational, depending on the CEO's expectations. Additionally, you learned that in order to be successful as a CPO, it is important for you to have a strong understanding of the procurement function, as well as the ability to build relationships with stakeholders and drive change. Furthermore, the length of C-suite roles is relatively short, so it is important for aspiring CPOs like you to continuously build a reputation, expand your network, and develop skills.